Gillard notes that this necklace isn't registered in the treasury and shouldn't have been there. Gillard says that this necklace holds no real value, and he wouldn't be able to buy a cheap sword if he were to sell it. Does he really want such a thing? Eugene says that he does, and Gillard notes that it can't be helped then, but he will have Robertin analyze it since it came from an unknown source and might be imbued with magic. Eugene asks if he can have it after, and Gillard promises that it will end up in his hands. He also says that since things turned out this way, and this item is technically not a Lionheart treasure, why doesn't he go back inside and choose another treasure? Eugene asks if he can really do that, and Gillard confirms it, as he promised he would let him choose one treasure from here. Eugene thanks him, and immediately goes in, while thinking that he's quite flexible, a surprising characteristic from a descendant of Vermouth. But this time there's no need to hesitate, and so he grabs Wined. He gets it out of its sheath, and thinks that now this sword is his. That night, Desira bashes him for not choosing a spear, as he's extremely good with that type of weapon. Eugene says that it was his choice, and he's good with swords, as she saw at the ritual. Gargus thinks that it's too light, and considering his strength, he should have picked something heavier, like a hammer or an axe. But now that the succession ritual is over, why doesn't he come back with him? As he will provide all of the muscle growth potions he wishes. Eugene screams that he doesn't need them, and Desira demands he stop talking with this meathead and draw his sword. Eugene does so, and she asks what kind of sword it is. He notes it's the Winniad, and according to the Patriarch, the blessing of the Wind Spirit King is imbued within and can most likely summon him after he gains enough mana. Desira says that it is a cool sword, but she still thinks he should have gotten a spear. Eugene says that there were also a lot of spears in there, and she asks if he saw them. The dragon spear is Carbos, which apparently lets out a fire breath. Eugene lies and notes that he doesn't know what it looks like. She asks about the demonic spear Rustidos, which is the strongest weapon Vermouth used. Gargus says that he also knows of that spear, as it was used by the Demon King of Cruelty. This makes Eugene think about it, and 300 years ago, there were 5 Demon Kings in Helmut. Rank 1, Demon King of Ruin. Rank 2, Incarceration. Rank 3, Frenzy. Rank 4, Cruelty. And Rank 5, Slaughter. Gargus notes that Desira is wrong, as the strongest weapon used by Vermouth was the pulverizing flail Ziggalard, which was used by the Demon King of Slaughter. They start bickering about their favorite items, and Eugene thinks that he also didn't see that flail in the treasury. Of the many weapons Vermouth used, the ones he got from the Demon Kings were the spear and the flail. They are both way too scary to be held in the treasury, so maybe they were sealed somewhere else. The other two are still arguing, and Eugene notices how childish they are, so he leaves. He notes that both the spear and flail are great weapons, so it's hard to say which is better. But if someone were to ask him which weapon used by Vermouth was best, he could answer within a second. The Moonlight Sword, which is the fragment in the shape of a sword that was sealed away, even in the demon realm. Both the Demon King of Cruelty, who used the spear, and the King of Slaughter, who used the flail, were defeated by the Moonlight Sword. He looks at Winid and thinks that this is the first real weapon he is using in this life. Gargus and Desira look at him, and he begins practicing with it, almost as if he's performing a dance. They're both mesmerized by how beautiful that is. In Gillard's office, Robertian analyzes the necklace but finds no magic within. Is this thing really from the treasury? Gillard confirms it, and Robertian asks if Eugene is not just playing a prank. Gillard notes that he would have no reason to, as if he didn't allow him to get another treasure. The child would still have gotten this. Robertian notes that it is true that it would be too much of a risk, but he would like to dig deeper as something is bothering him. Gillard asks how he's going to do it, and Robertian says that there's a magic that reads the memory of mana, and it was created by Senya, a great master in this field. Mana exists everywhere, and most things have it within them, so he will begin reading the memory of the mana that remains in this necklace. Gillard says that he will leave it to him, and so Robertian begins doing it and sees nothing suspicious, and what he can see is quite faint. He notes that he can't read further, as the magic from the treasury has stopped the memory of mana, and that the necklace is at least a century old. Gillard picks it up and notes that there's probably nobody alive to confirm where this came from. Robertian asks what he plans to do with it, and he says that he will give it back to Eugene, as it was an item that he was willing to sacrifice treasures to get. Robertin says that he likes him quite a bit, and Gillard smiles and gets up. He looks out of the window and says that there's no reason not to like him, and so he has a suggestion for him. He will take Eugene Lionheart in as an adopted child. Keon Lionheart comes to his chambers, and Eugene thinks that he's the youngest brother of Gillard, and considered a weirdo because he didn't marry yet despite being of marriable age, and going around with Gillard on his journey. He introduces himself, but Keon notes that he already knows who he is, as his performance in the ritual was amazing. Eugene slowly removes his hand and asks if he's here to pick him up. Keon confirms it, as Gillard wanted to send a knight, but he wanted to come personally, as he wanted to see Eugene for himself. Eugene asks why, and Keon notes that he already learned a lot about him, but wasn't able to see the ritual. It's ancient tradition that only the patriarch attends the ritual, but this time it seems he made an exception for Roberian, since he helped and all. However, he shouldn't see this as him throwing shade at his brother. He's just saying how it is. But now it also seems like he's complaining about family rules. Eugene notes that he shouldn't worry about it, and Keon says that his brother would have the same reaction. Eugene looks at him and thinks that, considering his mannerisms and free-spiritedness, he's as free as it gets, so that must be the reason he hasn't found a partner yet. While walking toward the patriarch's location, Eugene asks why he was summoned, and Keon notes that it was probably to congratulate him on his accomplishments. Eugene notes that he's already been complimented plenty, and it seems that even he doesn't know the reason. Keon says that it's not like he couldn't guess, but it's also something he just shouldn't get into. They arrive at the door, and he notes that he would like to talk with him more often. Eugene thinks so as well, knocks on the door, and is allowed passage. Keon gives him a final wink, and Eugene thinks that he's nice and all, but it's getting a bit much. Gillard apologizes for summoning him without notifying him further and says they should sit down. He puts the necklace on the table and notes that he made Roberian look at it, but it seems that it's just a normal necklace. They also tried to search its memory, but nothing unusual could be found. Eugene finds this surprising, as that magic is Senya's handmade magic, so she must have likely passed it down. Eugene asks what kind of memories are inside, and Gillard explains that the necklace was simply sold on the streets of the capital hundreds of years ago. Eugene finds this extremely strange, as he's very sure this is the necklace he wore, as he had it on for decades. Roberian also has no reason to lie, so did he perhaps make a mistake while reading the memories? Was there perhaps a spell cast on it that could trick even a magic tower master? But who would have cast it, Vermouth? There's too little information about this, but he's glad, as now he can keep it, right? Gillard notes that he did indeed promise that, so he can have it. Eugene puts it on and is happy to have it around his neck once again. Gillard says that he indeed called him for the necklace, but that's not really the only reason. He has an offer for him that's not bad, and might also be beneficial for his future. Gillard tries to say what it is, but Eugene stops him and notes that Seal is cute and all, but he has no intention of marrying someone just yet. He thinks that since he defeated Kayan, she has started acting nicer towards him, most likely to organize an arranged marriage. He thought that the patriarch was a nice person, but to think that he was this cunning. He continues and says that he's too young and would also need his father's permission and all that. Gillard says that he misunderstood something, as he wasn't trying to force him into an arranged marriage with Seal. Eugene sits in silence for a second and blushes heavily as he makes the worst assumption ever. Now he just wants to beat himself up for just thinking of it. Eugene asks what this is about, and Gillard finally says that he wants to adopt him. Eugene finds this just as shocking and thinks that it's not that bad of an idea to tie him down to the main family. Eugene notes that adoption is quite a surprising offer, and Gillard says that it's not as surprising as an arranged marriage, right? Eugene apologizes for that, and Gillard notes that if he wishes, he can also get his father, Jahard, into the main family. Eugene says that then he would have two fathers, but Gillard doesn't want this to become complicated and wants him to join the main family. He's a father of 3 himself, so he wouldn't dare try to steal a child from his father. And although he has never met Jahard before, he will respect him as one of his brothers. Eugene ponders heavily and wonders what to do. Eugene asks if he were to refuse this offer, would his father lose his respect? Gillard denies this and gets up. It's a bit embarrassing to say this out loud, but he's not petty, and if he were to refuse, that would be that. He will respect whatever his decision might be and wish him the best in the future. Eugene says that this decision is quite difficult, so he needs to talk with his father about it. Gillard notes that they will decide after the banquet, and he will have an envoy sent to Geidel for his father. Eugene thanks him and is lost in thought once again. He suddenly asks what he meant by having a good future in the main family. Gillard notes that if he grows up in this main family residence, he would enjoy many benefits, and they also have a few knights under their employment who would be able to teach him quite a lot of things,